I imagined our housewarming would be a night filled with laughter, warmth, and celebration, a moment that marked the beginning of our new chapter together. But the second Laura walked in, the tone shifted. Her first words carried that familiar edge, disguised as humor. She made a joke about me in front of our friends, something small, but sharp enough to sting. I laughed politely, hiding the burn behind a practiced smile. Inside, though, irritation simmered. I'd spent months getting this house ready. Every wall color, every piece of furniture, every detail chosen with care to reflect the life we were building. And here she was, turning my effort into the punchline of her performance. It wasn't new. Laura had always found subtle ways to chip at me. Playful insults framed as jokes, backhanded comparisons to other men. Little remarks that made me question whether she respected me at all. But tonight, in our new home, surrounded by friends, it hit differently. I watched her scan the room, waiting for the laughter to follow, for me to respond like I always did, with a nervous chuckle or a self-deprecating quip. But this time I stayed composed. I knew better than to feed her behavior with a reaction. Then came the moment that changed everything. Our neighbor Daniel stepped in to greet us. He lived next door, tall, confident, the kind of man who seemed to read a room in seconds. He'd barely crossed the threshold before his eyes flicked between Laura and me, taking in the situation with quiet precision. Laura, oblivious of the storm she'd set off, kept going. Her voice grew louder, more animated, still trying to draw laughter at my expense. Then Daniel shifted slightly, leaning casually against the doorway. His tone was even, almost conversational, but his words cut clean through the air. "Funny," he said, "I didn't realize this housewarming came with a stand-up routine. It wasn't harsh, just cool and deliberate, but it landed like a hammer." Laura froze, the color draining from her face. Her confident grin faltered. The joke she weaponized against me suddenly looked childish under someone else's gaze. The room went still. Friends glanced at each other, unsure whether to laugh or look away. In that silence, I saw it clearly. The power of perception. The same words that had once seemed harmless now exposed what they really were. Laura tried to recover, opening her mouth as if to joke her way out, but no words came. Daniel didn't need to say another thing. His presence had already shifted the entire balance of the evening. For the first time that night, Laura wasn't in control, and she didn't like it. I stayed quiet, letting the silence do its work. I'd learned long ago that reacting only gave her more power. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than defense ever could. Laura, usually quick with sarcasm, suddenly looked lost, her eyes darting between me and Daniel, searching for footing that wasn't there. The shift was small but irreversible. She knew she'd overstepped, and everyone else knew it too. As the evening went on, the atmosphere continued to change. Daniel was polite but had a knack for honesty that didn't need confrontation. Every question he asked, every casual comment, seemed to peel back another layer of Laura's act. She tried to laugh along, but it came out nervous, hollow. The confidence she'd worn so easily at the start of the night was gone. I stayed calm, simply watching, observing. Every flicker of discomfort, every forced smile told me what I needed to know. I didn't have to call her out. Her own behavior was doing it for me. Eventually, Laura slipped into the kitchen, pretending to refill drinks. I followed her quietly. "You okay?" I asked. She didn't look at me, just busied herself with the glasses. That silence said more than any argument could. She understood. The balance had shifted, and for once, she was the one being seen clearly. That night taught me something valuable. People underestimate how powerful an outside perspective can be. Within their own bubble, they can justify anything. But the moment a witness appears, truth has a way of surfacing. Her attempt to make me the butt of a joke had been undone. Not through confrontation, but through awareness, through presence, through the undeniable mirror of another's perception. It was a quiet lesson in restraint and strategy, one she hadn't expected to learn at her own celebration. By the end of the evening, Laura had retreated completely, hovering near the food table, avoiding any more jokes. The spark she walked in with, that smug energy, had vanished. She'd been exposed without humiliation, without argument, just truth reflected back at her. When everyone finally left, the house felt heavier but clearer. I sat on the couch, lost in thought. Laura stood near the kitchen, hesitant. After a long silence, she spoke softly. "I didn't mean to," she murmured, then stopped herself. I didn't interrupt. I didn't forgive. I didn't need to. The night had already spoken for me. Her actions had said everything. That was the moment I understood something fundamental. Trust isn't only about what happens privately. It's also about how we treat each other in front of others, how respect carries, even when the world is watching. Laura had assumed her teasing was harmless, but it wasn't. It revealed boundaries she was willing to cross, and ones I could no longer ignore. Daniel's presence had simply made her see what I already knew. Later, we finally talked, honestly, quietly. I didn't yell or accuse. I didn't rehash the past. I only laid out what respect needed to look like, both behind closed doors and in public. She listened, uncomfortable but sincere. It became a turning point, a moment that would either rebuild our foundation or expose that there wasn't one left. By the end of the night, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Control, not over her, but over myself. Calm, deliberate control. Laura had learned her lesson, not through punishment, but through consequence. That housewarming, which I'd feared might be another night where I was quietly diminished, turned into a quiet revelation instead. It reminded me that the strongest response isn't anger. It's awareness, patience, and letting the truth do what it always does, reveal itself. By the time she went to bed, Laura was subdued, humbled. Our relationship had been tested. But now, finally, there was clarity.